Hey, it's Brooke and Jeffrey in the morning.
You can scroll it later, or better, you can listen live to Brooke and Jeffrey every weekday morning. Big fun, real moments, the laughs that make your day. Your station, your city, right now. That's called radio. In Seattle, that's called Moving 92.5.
Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken heart and soul consciousness. Come journey with us exploring the meaningfulness of astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sue Minahan, and this is Talk Cosmos. Today is April 19th, and we're talking about Mars and Saturn. And a total partner is Mercury. They're all in Aries, that fire sign that leads forward energetically, rediscovering, becoming, inventing ourselves. I have a great guest, and I think I'll leave it at that because there's lots of leadership potential, and it's I think really in the back of everybody's minds and hearts, that's what we want. Aries, it wants to know, I am a leader, I am going forward, and to be able to take stock with it. All right, here we are. We'll start.
Talk Cosmos engages unique events during the 3rd and 4th weeks of the month, featuring a myriad of new and returning guests. Joining host and founder Sue Rose Minahan, they co-create to explore and contemplate a wide spectrum of potent subjects. Embark on today's topic within our panorama of guests and insights as we welcome the astrologers for this conversation.
Hello, I'm Sue, and am I echoing? Oh, I hope not. But anyway, hi, Jen. Hi, Jen Sachs.
Hi, Sue. It's good to see you.
It is. This is a great subject. And it was a match. It's just like leadership is really, because you're not a leadership. Well, you're a leadership by yourself, but then invariably you join other people. It's a force, right? Sometimes, because you did a wonderful talk on that with our Kepler astrologers, Toastmasters. And I had this conjunction happening and thought, oh, perfect. So we have a lot to talk about. And I think, Dave, if we can get our slides up. Oh, goody. There they are. Jen Sachs is a certified astrologer, a consultant, tarot reader, a speaker, and does classes. Her modern astrology involves traditional timing techniques. And on every week, she has a wonderful, it's called Sachs Astrology. Is it Sachs or Jen Sachs Astrology podcast?
Jen Sachs Astrology podcast.
Okay, I deleted the Jen. Very good. And Jen Sachs Astrology is her website. She has background in spiritual psychology and has been really doing one-to-one clienteles for 20-some years. So you learn so much with your clientele that it's an education beyond, just like these talks that we do. Every week you have to keep up with something and learn more. And that's the beauty of having a guest. You learn what they know and it invites more thought. So I do hope that with everybody here, that's your experience too, that you walk away inspired, motivated, thinking, yes, I can, like the little engine that could, right?
Very Aries energy. And just one correction, I did not correct you, Sue, but it's starting this week. My podcast is going to be on Mondays. It's just better my schedule and my ability. So it'll be tomorrow and not today. So thank you.
We will change that because you will be returning. And I love that fact. It's like how we are adjusting our leadership. You took that on. It's one perfect example that what was can still be, but kind of moving the river a little bit of activity.
Yes. Let's
look at the Sabian symbols. It's for those folks unfamiliar and for people that are familiar with it. It's a imagery based, for spiritually based. That was in 1925 with Elsie Wheeler and Mark Edmund Jones. And it rounds it off to the next degree. So it's 8 degrees Aries. And the symbol is a woman's hat with streamers blown by the east wind. What's your thoughts on that, Jen?
Well, a lot, especially with the Mercury here as well. There's just so much. So where to start? So it's almost as if we are kind of being blown around. Like there's just a lot of hot air around us, so to speak, and also coming from inside of us as well. But as we're being moved around through the wind, kind of like the streamers in her hat, it is up to us to remember to stay true to our values and our sense of purpose. And that is very much going to be this pinnacle of leadership skills right now, is knowing how to stay committed to your self-worth, as everything around us is just, it's changing at such a speed and in all directions. And also, within us. So there is something to consider. Do our values need to change? Do they need to shift? We do have Saturn here. Where are we maturing within this new information? What wisdom is trying to be, what wisdom is trying to bloom as the pollen, so to speak, is being blown?
Or burn. No.
Yeah.
I'm a flaming flower. Beautifully put. And it is hanging on to that center. That is key. And it is very interesting in that thought, because if we're changing our values, those values just might not be aligned to the real essence of who we are. That's the whole fact, is that we condition ourselves. People need to manage their environment, and their environment can change, whether or not they're at home, or whether they have a job, or whether, depending on their economics, or they have children or friends, all kinds of, or the world suddenly engages you with a new passion, a new dream. And how are you going to implement that? All goes back to that self. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really, we'll kind of remember that. But what's the interesting part? It says that at the bottom part of this, just reading, because this is with Dane Ruchar, who has Mind Fire online. You can see all the 360 Sabians there. And it says that you attune through Eastern philosophies, and it's a protective guidance and balloons. This idea that time is the word I'm trying to say is not just an element, it's a standard factor. The river keeps moving, it never stops. So we're better off to embrace that. And like she is hanging on to her hat, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes. And the Eastern philosophies, yoga, I Ching, it's all about bringing harmony and balance, just between the elements and what's happening with everything. And I do find it interesting. It's because it does seem like right now that it's these Eastern countries that seem to have they're just very solid. Like, and not even that, but it's even the Red Note, which is kind of like China's version of TikTok. That's booming within the United States as well. So it is kind of interesting how this is also playing out in kind of this greater element outside of us as well.
It is unity. It's like, okay, however you see the East and the West, let's just work together, find out what's happening together. Mm-hmm. Good. Well, Mars and Saturn exactly at 7 degrees, I think it's 51 minutes at this moment, which is a couple of hours after this show. It's 3-something as far as Pacific time. So we're right on that cusp merging. And Mercury is right there within minutes. I mean, minutes, same degree, 7. Such the crosser of boundaries and potential of dimensions. So it's really fundamental with Saturn. I'm looking at this archetype before we look at more of it together. And I think it's that forging, sober Saturn that says, let's just clear the field of what's extraneous, and then we can see our direction, what makes sense. But it's a matter of listening, too, all the time. I mean, Mercury and speaking, it's engaging. It's not just totally internal. Yeah.
Yeah. So here it's, this is very much given, especially with Mars in its home. And Mars kind of does what he wants, So, and I know Saturn is going to come in and try to slow Mars down. But even though this isn't necessarily Mars's greatest strength, Aries isn't his strength. It's just where he's home. But it's like, this is where Mars is more comfortable. So he might not feel like he has that much to lose. So he might be a little bit more activated whenever it comes to these authoritative situations and how we think and how we speak and communicate with each other, especially in hierarchical situations. So, we are very much at this turning point of humanity. And I think that Mars here being home is such a powerful planet to apply focus on, at least sometimes, just to kind of consider, but to consider focus on when he's at home. How are we when we physically feel comfortable and our energy is motivated in a way that we feel safe enough to stand up to those or who are trying to belittle us with their authority? And how are we using the sense of communication? And even though our communication is like our words are weapons whenever Mercury is in Mars, but like war isn't always bad if you're standing up against people or a system or a part of yourself that needs to change, that needs to be demolished, that needs to be pioneered.
I love this. Bravery is a big part of it. And it reminds me, it involves also not just the bravery to take the action or the words or the contemplation that you're thinking, but bravery afterwards to embrace yourself. Oh, I did that. Because sometimes it's a matter of catching up with yourself. It might be a new form of direction, of leadership that you're commanding within yourself, because the moment demands or requires, could be a good word, a certain response or perspective to continue with. And it can be a bit abruptive or perhaps not in alignment with what you consider to be so hunky-dory. I don't know if that's a word that people use these days or not. But yeah, I love the fact that Mars and Mercury are together. They are buddies in a lot of ways. Mars, Mercury's a buddy with everybody, I think.
Yeah. Mercury gets around.
Yeah, it needs to. It can slip in there and out there into our brains, into our hearts, wherever it goes, under the ground, up in the heavens, metaphorically speaking. And so Saturn has that, really is that manufacturer that takes in everything, and as long as they're listening. And I think in Aries, sometimes it's not listening. It's like more senses, it's body sense, it's everything, right? It's the whole environment, which Mercury takes in. And then that inspires you to move. Did you like that?
I did. I like the sound effects. Yeah. And just one more thing about Saturn in Aries is, it might be restricting might be restricting our fire and our sense of safety within our physical self. But Saturn in Aries also builds structures that can outlast fires as well.
Oh, that's right. Yes, the elements. And that comes into, like, we're in a fire year with the horse this year.
2 years in a row we'll have fire, this year and next year.
Yes, and that I discovered this year, because every year we have Jennifer Ng. Well, not every year, but for several years. And it has always prompted me to learn more about it. I'm trying to think of a way to get her in where we can go in the middle of the year with it. So I'll have to talk to her. But with that said, I discovered too that the elements repeat every time. So it's
and it kind of brings that harmony and balance of the
yin yang and yin yang of water, earth. Here we have in the stellium of Aries 5 planets. I think there's actually a few asteroids.
I have 6.
There's Aries. Yeah, there's more. There's Aries, but we have Chiron. Besides Mars, Saturn, and Mercury, we have Chiron, the wounded healer that is the master teacher and sage. And the moon is transiting that right now. And I didn't write the sun. I think the sun is in there too. Darn.
Also Neptune. That's sneaky Neptune.
Oh, that's right. Well, you know what? This is, yeah. Well, I think this was, in a sense, a certain, I was working with a certain aspect that we have pattern. But yes, Neptune and, yes, because here it's trine. It's this, well, these energies are working together. I think that's it. So I guess we're talking about two things. But yes, we have that big stellium. It's actually like 7. Well, I don't mean to get... The moon gives way after a while, and then the sun gives way. But there's hope with Chiron. You know, I think there's a new way with all that new directions to maybe hopefully step away from victimhood into personal empowerment. You think?
Yes. And what I love about Chiron is, Chiron makes our pain our gift to give others as well. Because Chiron doesn't necessarily ever heal. It just keeps reopening as we age. And here in Aries, it's as if it's, we are experiencing these wounds around our own sovereignty, our self-determination, and also our self-destruction as well.
Yes, because he has to die literally in order to be healed. So any phase does have to end. I just really am inspired by how you were saying that it doesn't go away. I know this, but to get that validated from someone, yet that you'll have, maybe you've put your stone that you've tumbled inside of you, that little thing that you've hoped to work on. Maybe you've got it in a ring now, and then you put it in a necklace, or maybe you just sit it on the altar and look at it,
Yes. Yeah. That's a really good way to look at it.
This is a chart today, the 19th of April, and on the East Coast, always we are here in the United States, it's in the evening. And you could say it's at 6:18. It's 14 minutes before the hour at 6:17:46. But these are some of there's a few more aspects, which I'll add to this, but these are what we call the workable, the hard, not hard, but the ones that have a lot of action or need. And there is that yod that needs adjustment. And it really focuses on the emotion and releasing in many ways.
Yes. Yeah, it does. And the moon too. Where is it? We have moon. Yeah, I'm not going to bring. Well, they're out of sign, but we also have that Venus-Uranus conjunction, which is quite. It is.
Yeah. Well, the Venus isn't so. Yes, Venus too. But you're right. Uranus is right between the moon. That's at 3 degrees Gemini, and we're at that liminal stage, as someone said that I was reading with Uranus. It's just about next week to go into. On the 26th, go into Gemini. Yes. And of course. So those other two are so quick moving that, yes, we can embrace it all in that point.
Yeah. And the moon with the sextile, especially with Pluto and Juno, this is a really lovely gift for us all collectively, no matter what gender we do or do not identify with, for us to check in with how do these different aspects of ourselves commingle. When are we assertive when we should be receiving, and vice versa? When are we allowing ourselves to be walked over when we need to stand up and, tell an audience like, hey, I'm the speaker of the week here. This is my turn to take control here, to have this position.
We got to keep going and get through our agenda.
Yeah, because you can't really have one thrive without the other, as, knowing how to work with each other and bringing in that Sabian symbol of the Eastern philosophies of, the balancing. And again, I'm reminded of the I Ching. They have, I don't remember exactly what they're called, but I know there's like there's like a hexagram. So there's
the
3
bars. Yes. 6 of them
Yeah.
all together. Some are broken, some are steady.
And they equal just 2 different aspects of nature, basically. So this chart that we're in today, especially with all this fiery energy just activating us, this moon trine to Pluto and Juno.
But it is involved because they're both very much with the nodes, at least the south node releasing. So it wasn't exact, but it's working in there together in the kettle.
Yes. But the moon trine the Pluto Juno conjunction, it's our opportunity to reflect on how our commitments and partnerships are being destroyed. Because, Pluto comes in, and Pluto gives us, oh my gosh, what is the word I'm looking for? The manure, basically, if you will.
Yeah, it regenerates it literally out of the mud. It grows.
Yes, Pluto gives us the manure for us to build this beautiful garden. And again, with all this Aries energy.
Compost, you could say.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
Okay.
But Aries energy, it's, for us to use that the compost for us to build that garden. And then whenever we reach, Taurus, and then Venus is going to have that conjunction with Uranus in Taurus before they both enter Gemini here next week. So there's a really big opportunity to see how we're using our energy and our resources as well whenever we feel as if everything is new. I don't know what to do. And it's up to us to be leaderships, not just in CEOs, not just in our jobs, but at our homes, in our communities.
Yes.
Speaking up
within our day, you could say. Absolutely very true. Because how we, and it's, what I'm thinking is we have new stories with that, the energy of Venus and the moon. We have an opportunity to renew and change the stories that we tell ourselves. Because if we are going through that day, as you're saying, with being our leader, it's like the little engine that I can get up the mountain. And maybe I even enjoy the scenery on the way. And maybe that's the challenge why I'm doing this. What seems like victimhood to myself, but no, it's actually a pleasure. It's my choice.
Right.
Thing.
And we have to be leaders within our own day-to-day lives, and with
That's
a task
essential.
Saturn, because everything is changing. And why not take this opportunity when everything is turning into manure, if you will, with Pluto?
Well, it's decomposing, really. It's like if you look at anything in Earth, I am astounded always how much Earth covers pyramids, covers cities in Italy, wherever. There's the trees keep blooming and the Earth keeps getting created. It is a learning process with this yin, with this push, pull, action, flow. And I think that's really so important. And what I love too, I'm going to go to the next slide, is that you had brought up, we had a little pre-chat about humor. And I thought, it was really about the Aquarian, I think, Pluto, because Aquarius has great, all signs have humor, but I think Aquarian jumps out of the box a bit and looks at things from a distance. And it's very instrumental not to get so embroiled in that passion of, oh dear, this was terrible, but rather kind of laugh at things.
Yes. Aries are great comedians too. A lot of great comedians are born under the Aries signature.
Good point. Well, there's flowing energy, that flow too really brings in all, on their own, we have a full package here. I think the new way I see this flow is that it's generally a new vision or framework of experience that we're trying to attach or to discover maybe in this whole process. It's like how to shift the gears, maybe invent the gears to shift.
Yeah. And, we spent a big majority of last month in the retrograde Pisces, the Mercury retrograde in Pisces. So there was a lot of reevaluation about how things have been and how we're sentimental and we're holding on to things. So this is, and I don't mean to just like focus on Mercury through this, but this is really our time to reinvent the structure of our brain and how we are moving forward. Because the brain isn't just a logical thing. That's where we store the patterns of even our emotions and what way we drive to work. You know, we've all driven to work and thought, how did I get here?
Yes, the horse and the carriage. There they go. That's storing the patterns. That's an excellent word, patterns. Because depending on any mosaic or a kaleidoscope, you know, it changes. But so often, and then there's abstract where you see the forest and there's an animal or a person, you know, in the distance, or clouds, looking at clouds and finding, but in other words, patterns are huge.
And patterns are going to be such a theme while Uranus is going through Gemini.
Yes. Oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about there. And it is right at that precipice. How do I say that word? I don't say it right. But anyway, we're at the tipping point, the ledge, just before we either melt or flood or waterfall into Gemini. And it has been amazing.
Initiation.
But
what a perfect time for all this initiation.
Yeah, yes, indeed. And Juno was with Pluto so instrumental. You brought that up with some elaboration, but to continue, is our contracts, it's our partnerships, besides in mythology also marriage, but it's more upgraded to this whole idea of what's really functioning with us that we're committed to and aligned with. Because and I took a sentence right out of our chat, how are we aligning and restructuring through deep changes? So it's sort of like hanging onto that pole and, you know, maybe with your hat, you know, like on a boat, like as you navigate through, not just on land.
Yes. And that brings us back to our Sabian symbol. And, you know, it really just having our hat on with all this air blowing around while you're holding onto your pole, it's the movement of your hat is really as a symbol, the Sabian symbol. It's going to show how your hat is anchored. So how are we anchored during this time is going to be very, very visible to us, especially today with the 3 planets in that 7-degree conjunction.
And it is on your head. I just realized that symbolically. The head is Aries. And so it is a sense of protecting from the heat or the wind or something like that. Well, we are going to take a break, a rather brief one, although enough time for you folks to maybe just grab something you need and come back. And we'll continue on with this action-driven Mars and sober, grounded Saturn with Mercury being versatile and curious. I'm curious. Okay, Jen, I'll see you in a sec. While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We're currently in the period of Aries. By leaving a cycle based upon completion, the energy of Aries sparks initiation, creating action to separate into a new cycle of life. It's a fire sign, which means it will involve great emotion. And because separation may create resistance, it also takes great courage to break away to new ways of becoming.
Talk Cosmos ignites insightful conversations to awaken heart and soul consciousness with hour-long programs every Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific on KKNW. Also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click their like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. You can listen to earlier podcasts since 2018, either on most podcast carriers or under the video tab on Talk Cosmos YouTube. To join our expedition and find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at TalkCosmos.com and launch your week into the cosmic wonder.
This is Martha Norwalk. Every Sunday morning, beginning at 9 a.m., thanks in part to NewProSupplements.com, we cover the world of animals. This week, April 26th, it's an encore presentation. Tune in to hear our last energy balancing show with best practitioner Linda Rasmussen. She helped callers and their animal friends with emotional and behavioral and physical issues, and you can receive a surrogate healing just by listening and following along with her instructions. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Broaden your horizons. You'll be amazed at all the topics we cover on Alternative Talk 1150.
I muted myself. I'm back again. Okay, let's see. Yes, indeed. Jen Sachs is from Seattle, and KKNW is aired there, so she is right at your time zone, ready for consultations if you wish. And it's Jen Sachs Astrology, and I'm at Talk Cosmos, and her podcast is on Spotify and Apple Podcast, and also you can see all these back issues. Talk Cosmos has quite a calendar. We had Mark Jones last week with Dr. Laura Tad, and actually I'm missing one here. Because this was used, actually that was the week before about Uranus, and then last week was about the new and full moon for this month. Next week is going to be about Pluto again in Haumea in this transformational rebirth. Then we're going to jump with Tara All returning. She used to be here every week for every month, about Mars in Chiron, which is Mars is doing a really adventure through the horoscopes, or I don't know, through life, through the sky. Yes, indeed. Well, part of this, is looking at the United States. I'm always curious, is it aspecting? Yes, it is. And we don't need to look at this closely as much as you want here, Jen. But I think it is good to know that this experience, as we were saying, it's transformation everywhere. That's partly because it's all involving everybody collectively and our nation, and likely other nations too. Sometimes I check those, especially if we have someone from another country. But that means that not only are we going ahead with what makes our own soul move, but everybody else is too. It can be quite active, a lot of adjustments. And I think, but it's a recalibration. And if we look at it like for our personal authority, I think that's really good. And because here, if you notice there in the first house, at least for the US with this Sibley chart, Eris, that little arrow pointing down, is the goddess of inclusive. No matter what people say about discord, that's not intentional. It's like a byproduct, because she's all about inclusivity, not exclusivity. And it seems as we're transporting through these times politically, it's all about who's included, who's excluded, and redrafting the whole process between groups and whatnot. And the story is not over. We're just a long path here going. But it does allow a person to have more personal authority, because you can claim those parts of yourself and express them in some way, such as we do in our different speak groups and here on this program, but among the people that you're with, however it spells out to you, is one of the gifts, I think, that the jumble, the percolating everywhere that seems to be the news, bringing this to mind, or maybe somebody that is being affected somehow, then there is opportunity.
Yes, I am not seeing the transiting Eris. I thought she was in Aries. Is she not? Or is...
Yeah, she is. She's 27 degrees. You know what? Maybe on that chart, I didn't, because unfortunately, with solar fire, thank you for that. But it would be 25 degrees Aries, because it's right when it's been on my North Node at 24 Aries for 8 years. It seems like forever. It's just now leaving a little bit. I think she's coming back.
And because Aries is, so Chiron, we spoke about earlier about how it's like this wound that keeps on being reopened for us to, provide lessons for other people. In Aries, it's almost like Chiron is like has this Wolverine ability too. Like it does heal really quickly, like the body, they do. There might be some accidents, a little bit more accident prone. But with this conjunction to Aries, as you were saying, she wants, I keep saying she, I try not to bring genders into the planets.
I know it is tough, but yet in a sense, it's okay because she's a viable she. And that helps us adjust, I think, just talking about the good side of it or the helpful side, not good, not to use judgment, but the beneficial side is that it opens up that ability to be who you are, to be included.
And I think it's really, kind of important for me to note that it is often women who have this pioneer, blazing personality who get these scarlet letters slapped on us very quickly. And, just malicious slander that is designed by our systems. So with Aries conjunct Chiron right now, with all of this pioneering, with everything going on, let's be real. This is just an extremely lovely opportunity for us to consider, like, where is this Chiron wound that keeps opening up for us to learn how to be of service and gifting our lessons to others, while also bringing in this like feisty, receiving, nurturing aspect that can and typically is considered hostile whenever it is just assertion to community.
Assertion, isn't that a beautiful idea? Because you need to have force. If you have a nail, you got to pound it to get it through the wood or the wall. You can't just maybe get in there. Not. And it is a horse here. And I remember because Jen Sachs is one of the people on Astrojam that happens 4 times a year. It's going to be in June, I think, the next one. And we did fire people, and they, as you're mentioning, they were demonized in a way because they were pretty aggressive. One of them in England really worked on women's rights. She said she toured here and was violent too. I mean, throw rocks. I mean, I don't mean, okay, I will slow down because I really intend my program to be peaceful. So, but it does mean that we're in an energetic year. It's a 1 year. It's a spiritually thinking, and it that inclusivity, as you said, remembering how to be of service, and it's empowerment. Because we have to all. Power is give and take. Both can win. Jen, if you have ideas.
And you did, and there was the word aggression that came up again with the fire horse people. And there's, just a question, because I've just seen this played out with I have a lot of strong women in my life, but I've just seen it played out. It's like, how long was this person trying to work things out with people? How long were they just trying to take care of what they needed to take care of? And then their like basic needs just kept being denied. And then when they stood up, they were labeled aggressive. So that is something to just kind of consider right now, and it especially if we don't know people, because there's just words are just being flown around right now. It has happened long before Mercury went into Aries, but it is just maybe we need to take the time to consider collecting the correct facts and getting to know people before we label them as aggressive, and especially people who
it's quick to make judgment calls. And that is essential, to withhold judgment. maybe judge how oneself wants to act about it or respond to it or feel about it. But instead of this, because judgment in itself stops, and Capricorn and Saturn more, it's not attached to the elements, is it? But Capricorn, if we look just at that element, is a cardinal. It's motion, wants to go forward. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking back to the actual chart itself, because it does involve very much that emotions and the values and the new stories. And it is that healing and the pattern. Anyway, it's a lot more process involved.
And we do have that Pluto-Juno conjunction right now on the South Node, which is interesting. So that just adds to all of this unearthing about what the United States needs to release, needs to move on from.
Well, I was curious, and I looked at various other aspects. And I thought, well, what happens when it's at its opposition? So this chart is at the opposition, and it'll be next summer. And this is with the July 4th, 1776 natal chart that the often used Sibley at 5:10 p.m. in Philadelphia, which was the capital at that time, with the ascendant at 12 degrees. And therefore, you see that there is just transiting opposition with Saturn in Aries at 27 degrees, and it's retrograde, 33 minutes, and it's opposite Mars in Libra at 27 degrees, 33 minutes. So I saw, just looking at this, that it's close to many other, that Saturn and Saturn and Mars are very close, transiting other natal planets in the U.S. chart. Well, without getting into all the details, there's lots to talk about next year and lots to understand. But it is this gear change that's being connected strongly with next year, kind of sparking now. 2027 into 2028 is going to have a lot of ignition, turning, and leveling of, these kind of figuring out what's fundamental in so many ways in the chart here. So this opposition happens to be August 29th, 2027, and it's in the morning, East Coast, 3:35, you could say, in the morning. And we're having, just to run through it during that period, our nodes, because this summer we go into the Aquarius and Leo nodes. And next year there'll be a reversal because they're at 6 degrees with the transiting ones. There'll also be, as you can see, an Uranus return. It always looks so close, but this will be after the Uranus return. But yet it happens 3 times. So we're going on the first, and it's going to come back and over again. So Uranus in Gemini, of sudden awareness, of awakening, of the moments, of how to realign, recalibrate, get back to center, if you can say, is very prominent. But however, the nodes themselves are so important, because we had several years ago the quote Pluto return, but we're still having this Pluto return. The war lasted 7 years, and then it was 12 years before we really had the Constitution. We just had that last month with Karen Wenderland, and it's very prominent now, and it will be resurfacing with energies. In other words, Pluto is going to compost, you could say, to use your word, Jen, over our past, what we consider to be our collective networking and community, to maybe, I hope, renew it. And last but not least, we have a Saturn return, just once, to kind of finish things off. It's a lot going on. So we're in that big,
Yeah, and there is. And, astrology is cycles. So the Saturn-Mars conjunction that we're having today is the opening conjunction where this chart, next August 29th, 2027, is going to be opposing what we are going through right now with these two planets in particular. So that is something to consider, that, this is going to be an ongoing thing. So, what do you want this cycle to be? How do you want to be motivated and to stand up in your leadership and in your own empowerment with this alignment? It's very powerful. April 19th specifically is a very powerful day for collective change.
In that case, it is, I think, awareness, because one figures, even as I do these programs later, oh, gee, now what was I supposed to do? But I think it is recognizing energies or collectively collaborating, but to hone in with that center pole, just like a boat, hanging onto your ribbons that are flying in all this wind happening, and to reshape your own leadership, to realize that you're in an inventing. Aries is reinventing all the time. It sees a direction. It works. It doesn't work. Let's toss it. Let's do something different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just something to consider is younger generations. They are going to be leaders as we age, whether we like it or not, whether we skibbity toilet, understand 6-7, all of this stuff about this Gen Alpha and Gen Z generations. It's so they're quite powerful in their own way, and they're quite powerful in their way to choose when they do and do not respond or react to things. Like it's very deliberate. And there is something to that. In Aries being the first sign, there is that, like, I don't want to say childish. I mean, let's be real. It can be if it's not properly.
Well, maybe it hasn't been, it's fresh. Maybe it sees innocent or naive abilities. Yes. But that's experience. Go ahead.
How can we, these older generations, use the wisdom of our experience about what we wished the generations did before us and even after us? But again, something that a lot of people who've heard me talk in the last 10 years have heard me say, we're the ancestors of the new generation. So we are very much setting the stage for the next 2,000, 2,500 years. And we are writing the history books right now. We are the actions that they're going to be writing about. So how are we pioneering these younger generations to safely explore themselves in a way that they are going to be committed to rebuild humanity in a way that is going to be sustainable for everybody?
Yes, which reminds me, because I was going to ask you, but then I realized, because if you're teaching little people, parents, mothers, fathers, grandparents, all of them are so valued, because that's where we trust that person, and hopefully and it's the guidance is invaluable, and it's unique to one's own experience. But a lot of it, I remember my first speech class, I was going back to school working, and it was an English, some kind of English class. It was speech. And one of the first lessons was, for success, when talking, never to attack the person, but the ideas, what they're doing, in other words, their ideas, but not them as a person. If you say you're this and you're that, immediately you're not getting anywhere. Mm-hmm. And I think if people can learn that dignity and value, you may not really like anything about them. If they're a young person, maybe they're being very emotional and angry or whatever it would be, vindictive or something. Or if it's an older person, they're also using their not listening because they have that ability not to have to listen. Mm-hmm. But if we can teach ourselves and others to stop and allow hearing what people have to say and use debate, maybe that real anchor of
a very Aryan thing. Like a lot of lawyers and debaters are Aries people. Comedians aren't comedians because it's ha ha ha. Comedians are philosophers.
Yes. I love that. Oh boy, this is exciting, really, because
It's very, I can feel the hat. Very heated. I can feel the Aries energy.
Well, sometimes I just dream about an impromptu with a really kinetic group of people that were just like they have Saturday Night Live in or laughing or live in. That would be this astrology live in, because you could just riff off so much, because everything is possible. There is no one right way.
Right.
We think of the archetypes, the whole potentiality, and that's another thing. Possibility is wide open. So going back to this, I realized, well, with the air signs, Gemini with Uranus, thank you. And then, of course, this summer we'll have the air sign with Jupiter. And then meanwhile, we have all this fire with Pluto and not Pluto. Come on. Thank you, Sue. Saturn and Neptune besides now. But and then with anyway, I'm feeling like I'm leaving somebody out, my Aries. Everybody's in the group. Bring in air. Well, I think I said Pluto with Aquarius. You're listening so kindly, but I think you got the idea. Mm-hmm. Lead on. Yeah, because it's fodder, it's that fuel that you brought up. It's purpose driven.
Yes. And, and something very empowering that I personally hold high value in my own leadership, but also those who have leadership positions in my environment is apologizing and knowing when to take accountability and to pivot when necessary. And I don't think Aries energy is necessarily great at that. It's there can be a bulldozing approach whenever stopping, reevaluating, and just taking accountability needs to be placed in that situation instead. So that is I'm just kind of putting that out there as just something to consider with all of this energy, whether it's from yourself or somebody else. And we're all kind of mirrors of each other too. Is to just consider it's okay to be wrong. That's growing.
Or make a mistake, to reframe it. Again, it goes into this business of, instead of blaming someone, this me versus victim thing, just really to elevate out of it. Because if we allow this interchange, or step away if it's too intense, that's fair, totally fair. But honesty is what, in vibrational astrology, they, with research, David Cochrane discovered in his looking at thousands and thousands of charts, such as they do, it is done in vibrational astrology. Honesty and integrity of knowing to act is key, and having the people in your environment see you for what you're doing. So perhaps that's why, if Aries doesn't, as you're saying, if it's true that not so quick or immediate to apologize, it's because if they're not understood, which they think is an honest, full of integrity activity, there isn't much to talk about. There's no common ground. So they just leave. It's like, okay, it's not that fighting combat that we think of. Not to say one doesn't, if it's, you got to defend because it takes, as we've said, a lot of energy to do it. But at any rate, I was just commenting on that factor of it. So we're building versions of ourselves. That's the key. There's lots of opportunity here.
Yeah. And we're all leaders. We're all leaders in our own way. And I got to tell you, I was raised in a very tiny town in the Midwest where Carhartts and Dusty Pants were known. And I didn't know anything outside of that. And there was this woman who came in. I was probably 5-6 years old. And she just had on, I can't remember, she looked like glitter to me. She might not have worn glitter. It might have just been her aura, but she had a flowy dress, long kinky hair, and she laughed in a way that I had never really heard in my hometown. And I think about her a lot when I think about leadership, because just her walking through that grocery store whenever I was a kid and just being who she was, she showed me that there is something more than what I was being offered.
Unmistakably, unapologetically being oneself,
Yes.
as one needs to be, which can be a bit of a lesson in itself to realize that, yes, that it was okay, and always learn in the future. But oh, how beautiful. It's unfolding values in this process. We're experiencing adjustments. And I think the willingness to allow ourselves, that's what it is. Allow yourself. Give permission. So as we move along, you can sort of step back and say, okay, where's the wind? What do I need to do? What do I want to do? Who am I? What does it ask me to do?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And what are your values? In that kind of, it's something said in the beginning about our own personal and core values. Kind of going back to that story of my hometown with that woman, it's, what are the values you're living through?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I love that. There are people that just stand out. So if you can stand out with your own strength of being, dignity. Thank you so much, Jen Sachs. And thank you, everybody else. I hope that music isn't warbling in your ears. May your days, and we'll see you again. Happy success in your soul. All right.
Thank you for joining this vibrant and insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her guests awaken consciousness by connecting heart and soul consciousness patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next week, same time, same place, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.